Hello, everyone. Come on, come all to the Common Sense Academy. Joe the lawyer, live today to take legal questions, to talk about sovereign citizens, First Amendment auditors, or whatever topic it is that you want to chat about. I can't talk today. I got a little bit of a sore throat, and it's messing up my speech a little bit. But thank you for joining me. Regardless, we'll go for a solid hour today. We can talk about whatever it is you want to chat about, legal questions, auditors, sovereign citizens, news, politics, travel. Chat about all the sovereign citizens. The recent case out of Louisiana, where that sovereign citizen got the death penalty. Hi, Chief Tuttle. Thank you for joining. Joe Donho, thank you for coming in. Kevin, thanks. I hope I feel better too. It's kind of just a little bit of a sore throat. It's not so bad. Hey, Melissa. And hey, Mass One, thanks. I know you're a big Second Amendment guy. Did you check out my new video on Joe the lawyer? I dropped a new video over there on the Second Amendment, so check it out if you have some time. It's about DC v. Heller. I did 2 videos on DC v. Heller. I got one more coming up on the Second Amendment, just the current state of the law when it comes to the Supreme Court. Hey, Southern Belle, thank you for joining me all the way from South Carolina, a beautiful state. I've been to Carolinas on vacation. I've driven through them. I've been to Myrtle Beach and also the Outer Banks. Chief, I did not check out the new DeWitt videos yet. I need to. I know. I've been so freaking busy. Joe Donho, thank you for the super chat. All sovereign, all the time. I know that's the name of your game, sir. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the super chat. I truly appreciate it. Pens are playing. Yeah, I know. They're up 3-1. I've been checking the score. They lost 6 in a row. They need a win. The Witless is correct. The Witless is correct, Joe Dono. Very correctamundo. So you guys let me know what it is you want to chat about. I did cover that death penalty case. Steve Parsons. Hey, Steven. Thank you for joining me. We can be friends. Yeah, we can be friends. Just you got to cool it. You cool it on the phone calls, okay? All those phone calls. Cheers, everybody. I got some coffee. It's not the same time sip yet. You can sip with me, but I always do the same time sip about 15 minutes in. Cheers. Lawful masses on the Jehovah's Witnesses versus Reddit decision. You know, Kevin, it popped up, but I haven't watched it yet. That gives me 2 videos that I got to watch here. Let's see. All right. I got to watch the latest from DeWitt. I'm sorry, Chief. I haven't watched it yet. I know we've been chatting about it. And the new one on lawful masses and the Jehovah's Witnesses. That kind of sounds hilarious. Considering I just ran that video on the woman who threw a pipe bomb into a Jehovah's Witness church. She got charged with attempted murder. I mean, that's no joke. But throwing a pipe bomb at a building is no joke, you know? So she's got a lot on her hands. She's looking at some serious time there. I had a scary experience. Police at the laundromat started randomly patting down people for drugs. I refused, and they threatened to take my camera, but ran when I invoked my Fifth Amendment. That's interesting. Number one, they wouldn't normally just be randomly patting down people. They must have had some sort of reason to do that. Why they ran when you invoked your Fifth Amendment is a little strange, too. I'd want to know why they were there at all, worse, too. I'd want to know. Is there anything about that sovereign citizens get right about the law? They ran. Wow. Yeah, there is one thing they get right about the law pretty frequently, and that is when they're being searched, they say to the police, "I do not consent." You do not have to consent. When the police are going to search your body, your home, your vehicle, you do not have to consent to that. Okay. They will often ask you to consent. Okay. But you don't have to consent. They will conduct the search. If they have reasonable suspicion or probable cause to conduct a search, they're going to conduct the search anyway. If they don't have those things at the time, then they can go and get a search warrant from a judge and then come back and search your vehicle, etc., etc. A lot of people get themselves into trouble by consenting to vehicle searches. That's when I see it most common. So they actually get that correct. The thing is, the sovereigns, they spout off so much nonsense, it's hard to know what they're actually saying or what they actually mean. They may say that they're not giving consent, and then they may give consent at a later time. That could then give the police the right to conduct searches, to do a further further investigatory searches. So yeah, that's actually something they do get right. Now, here's the reality of it. All right, I'm a defense attorney. I do everything I can do as a private attorney. I would tell you that one day it might be, I applied to be a district attorney actually, when I first got out of law school, and I was probably going to get hired, but it was at a county that is several hours away from Pittsburgh, away from my hometown. And I didn't want to move. And the district attorney who interviewed me, he wanted me to move. And I just, I called him and I told him, because I think he was maybe going to reach out to me. And I told him I didn't want to move. So I didn't take the job as a district attorney. I went into civil law for about 3 years. Then I went on my own. Now I mostly do criminal defense. I'd like to maybe be a prosecutor one day, even for a couple of years, just to have that experience. But that aside, if you don't have anything, if you don't have anything to hide in your vehicle, okay, and if you know that you don't have anything to hide in your vehicle, go ahead and consent. Okay. If you don't have anything to hide on your body, you can go ahead and consent. Okay. If you don't have anything to hide in your house, you can go ahead and consent. The police usually know what they're doing, though. Okay. And so when they're asking for consent, it's usually because the individuals that they're asking are up to something suspicious. Okay. The thing is sometimes people can be getting investigated for one thing and it leads to another thing, right? That's often the case with traffic stops. Is someone will get stopped for running a stop sign, and they have a gun under their seat, and they are a person not to possess a weapon, which means they're lawfully not allowed to possess a weapon. This is a common factual scenario. Well, the police they might see that this guy had prior cases, and then they would ask him to search the vehicle. Okay. And if he gives consent, they're going to go and they're going to see the gun. If he didn't give consent, they may not have probable cause to search the vehicle on a stop sign search. A warrant is generally always best, but it's not always practical. You understand that too, Chief. I mean, I understand from the side of law enforcement as well. Is there a video anywhere where a Sobs sitter or an auditor asked for the supervisor, told the cops they were traveling, the cop said, "Oh, sorry, happy traveling," and left? Has it ever worked? No. Well, yeah, I did a video a couple of weeks ago on these two clowns, and they weren't sovereign citizens, but they were like cop watcher type guys. Okay. And the cop pulls them over more or less, to give them a ticket. They were speeding. And they keep telling the officer that they were traveling. This officer, he didn't want it to escalate. He didn't want to deal with any more than giving them the speeding ticket. So he just wrote the speeding ticket and handed it to them. Okay. The thing is, they'll turn around and say, "Oh, we bugged the police off by saying we were traveling." They claim that as a victory, but it never is. Okay. Anytime that there's a victory for sovereign citizens, it's never because of their sovereign citizen language. It is always because it was a minor offense to begin with, and the police cited them and went on their way, or for whatever reason, the officers just give a warning and don't want to deal with it. That's the only time you ever see it. Ed. They generally never win. Southern Belle, been a lawyer since 2013. I was barred. I took the bar exam in October of 2013. I was admitted to the bar in January of 2014. So January of this year gives me 6 years. I honestly cannot believe that it's been that long. Breaking news, creepy Uncle Joe Biden just won his 3rd state on Super Tuesday. Oh, did he? I haven't really been following. But, you know, it's interesting that Bernie was leading in the polls and now Uncle Joe is getting all this momentum. Hi, Gary. Thank you for coming in. You're on time this time. Usually you're late. A Big Red G. You're correct. Never consent. Dragon Rose, thank you for joining me. Jodon, I'm 36, been carrying my permit since 21. If you have a lawful permit and you carry in the correct way, you're good to go. If they didn't consent, they have a suspended license or a warrant for their arrest. Yeah, you know, you're right, Chief. You're right, Chief. And I'll tell you, most of my guys that get caught with guns, okay, they'll be pulled over for something. And you know, with technology nowadays, the National Data Bank for law enforcement, they're going to see an open warrant on you. So they pull you over for a stop sign. They see you have an open warrant. They pull you out of the car. They can do a sweep of the vehicle. Half the time, these weapons are in plain view. Not all. They can do a sweep of the vehicle, or in my opinion, the best thing for police officers to do is to impound the vehicle. And I believe once you've impounded a vehicle, number one, that gives law enforcement time to get a warrant. And number two, I think they can even do a warrantless search once the vehicle's been impounded. And then you're going to find any evidence that's within the car. Just wanted to say we have something in common. My only 3 drinks are coffee, Diet Coke, and water. Kim, me and you, come on, birds of a feather stick together. That's hilarious. Thank you, Kim. Those are pretty much, I'm not saying those are the only things I keep in my house. Okay. I buy 2 liters of Diet Coke. I buy coffee and I buy bottled water. That's all that I keep in my house. Now, if I'm out and about, you know, I might get something different to drink. I don't know. I'm at breakfast. I get an orange juice, right? But those are the only 3 beverages I drink at home and drink consistently. I think some cops just don't want to be bothered because it's close to the end of their shift. Yeah, I mean, these sovereigns go on and on. It's like it's a speeding ticket. There was one video where the guy just dropped it in the window and left. I mean, that was, you know, why deal with it? I don't blame him. Cops are good judges of character. They're street smart. They can breathe through bull crap. Absolutely. They see it over and over and over again. The funny thing, too, is me as an attorney now, my bullshit detector has gotten much, much better over the last few years. And I didn't even realize it was getting better. It was just like a superpower that I started to acquire. And again, I'm not like trained in it or an expert, but when I know when I just know when my clients are lying. I can't even necessarily tell you why. If you ask me right after, I could tell you why, but I know now when they're lying to me. It's unbelievable. Is a gun in court best defense attorney I have ever had? Thank you, Steve. Steve is a former client of mine. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. They win only when law enforcement slacks off. Generally, yeah. I mean, that's the only way sovereigns ever win. That's true. It's the Joe and Bernie show. Everyone else is going to drop except maybe Moneybags, Bloomberg. Yeah, I agree with that. None of them have a path. Oops, notification late. Hey, Joe. Hey, thank you. Impounded vehicle search for safety reasons. Exactly, Chief. That's the way to go. Weird question. Sovereignty in the Amish. That's actually a good question, Kevin, because this is a little off topic, and then I'll bring it back to that topic. We're all familiar with the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects your right to free speech. The First Amendment also gives you freedom of religion. And some of the constitutional law cases that we studied in law school have to do with religion, and some of them actually have to do with the Amish. So the Amish early on tried to argue that like federal laws and state laws didn't apply to them. Okay, so Amish have gotten attorneys. This was all very far in the past. but they got attorneys and tried to argue the sovereign citizen argument that they were outside of the jurisdiction of federal and state laws. Now, they didn't rely on a conspiracy theory that the sovereigns have, but they were basically like, we're fully self-sufficient, we, et cetera, et cetera. And I think they made a part of their argument under a freedom of religion argument. And what the Supreme Court has said with freedom of religion is the court will carve out exceptions on when it comes to, religious practices that are generally extremely harmless. But you're not going to get out of the criminal laws because of your religion. You're not going to get out of general civil laws. There's case law on this. There was a case as well, I recall reading. It's funny how this shit pops into my brain. Excuse my language. Well, I already blew it for monetization today, whatever. But there was a case where Native American Indian tribes were using, I believe, peyote. And they tried to argue that because it was for religious purposes, they should be able to use it even though it's illegal. And I believe that the Supreme Court went against them. Shoot, I can't remember. Anyway, long story short, the Amish have tried sovereign citizen arguments and it hasn't worked. And laws that are generally applicable are going to usually be upheld. What the government can't do under the Constitution is make laws that specifically target certain religions. That's really what the freedom of religion, it protects you from. So if the legislature, or the Congress, or your state legislature writes a law that applies to everyone, regardless of religion, and applies to every religion, okay, then that law is going to be upheld 99% of the time. Okay, but what the government can't do is write a law specifically targeting a religion. But outside of that, the Amish, all generally applicable laws apply to the Amish. This has been litigated. They're, for lack of a better word, shit out of luck. An inventory and not a search when it's getting towed. Yeah, I mean, it's a search, but it's called an inventory search. Barbecue Bob, welcome. Defense lawyers are always great. They can usually do every type of law. Mine does. Everyone needs a defense lawyer's phone number in their wallet. I agree, worst to one. Here's the thing about attorneys that practice in the criminal law. They're trial attorneys. They have a lot of experience going into court all the time and doing trials, whereas civil attorneys may not see a courtroom for an entire month or longer. Okay. But criminal attorneys and family law attorneys, frankly, are in court constantly doing trials all the time. Mass one, can I call in real fast on speaker? Yeah. What? 1 second. 1 second. Let me run through the rest of these questions. Do sovereign citizens get their special section in prison? They are annoying. No, but did you read about the one guy who the one I did a video on this guy who went into jail and he refused to give his name. So they separated him from the rest of the population because they couldn't check him in because he didn't have his name. So by virtue of him not providing his name to the jail, he was separated from the rest of the population. The Amish have their own goon squads who keep order. I know, right? It's actually hilarious. Cops are pretty good spotting who are up to no good. Yeah, they are. Any First Amendment auditors pushing freedom of religion? Well, they listen. The auditors generally are they can be operating within the scope of the law. God gave plants for us to use. Well, I agree with that to a certain degree. Big Red G. I heard chit, right, everyone? Hi, boy. Hey, Taze. Welcome, welcome. Hey, hi, Honest Bard. Thank you. Joe, I am in the towing business. Can I address inventory? Absolutely. Go ahead. Mass, if you want to call in, give me a call, man. Hello, Joe Palmetto, Common Sense Academy.
Hey, what's up, Joe? It's Max.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. What did you want to chat about?
I was just holding on to my thought while you answered the question. When you mentioned the same time sip, it reminded me of, I mean, it reminded me of me being quite a tiny little bit of a prepper. And I just wanted to make an announcement for everybody in the room. With this crazy virus going around, be sure to have bottles of water in your house, because you never know what's going to happen. Rite Aid right now, last night I bought 48 gallons worth of water. I bought 8 24 packs of Big Win, Rite Aid's brand, generic brand of their bottled water, and it's 2 24 packs for $6 right now. So it's a really good deal at Rite Aid. So I mean, I do have a prepper mindset. So I just want everyone to be prepared. I'd rather, have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's my mindset, But,
Absolutely.
That's just all I wanted to say about, because thinking about the same time sip made me think about all the water I bought last night, because this wild coronavirus out there is getting pretty hectic,
It is.
But,
It's fairly unprecedented. I mean, SARS and Zika and all these other ones. Corona is already, it's already stacking up deaths. So I'm with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like, so I just wanted to let everyone know in the room, you got a Rite Aid near you. They got a really good deal right now, and you get 2 24 packs of water for $6. That's 3.5 gallons per 24 pack, and that's a really good deal. It breaks it down to like 69 cents a gallon. So, I mean, it's spring water, I believe, is what they have. Their brand, Rite Aid's brand of water. But that's all I wanted to call in and let people know. I know the sovereign guys get a bad rap sometimes, but sometimes there's some decent people in those groups sometimes. Like, people like me, like, I'm not too far, like, to the extreme about it. I know my rights, but I'm not nuts about it. And I do prep a little bit, that's all. But, I mean, you could call me, libertarian minded. That's what I'm mainly libertarian.
Well, yeah, Matt. I mean, I would consider myself libertarian minded, and I would separate sovereign citizens and preppers. I'm sure there's some overlap, right? Some sovereign citizens may be preppers, but I think there's perfectly good reasons to prep, especially if you have the money and you can do it. And here's the bottom line with it is, it's not going to hurt you in any way. If you have the money, you can afford it. Why not have that stuff on hand? You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
You never know what's going to happen. And those types of goods that you're going to buy are non-perishable. So if you run out of food 6 months from now, you can go down in your prep cabinet and you can grab, a can of beans and bring it up for dinner. It's like, that stuff generally isn't going to go to waste.
Exactly. None of your business is saying to cut me off. I think, well, Taylor got him, I guess. No, he showed it. Instead of hiding it, he showed his comment. He said, "Cut this softard off." But no, I'm not a sovereign citizen. But I mean, I do know about the Act of 1871. I read up. I know all about that. That's basically when everybody got their their birth certificates and things like that. And that's when the slaves got to take the last names of their masters, when all the slaves were set free in America, after the Civil War around 1871. That's when we basically switched over from physical slaves, or the black African Americans, to more of a debt slave, because, I mean, the debt we are what, 24 trillion in debt now, and that's all of our debt. Every citizen in America, that debt belongs to all of us.
Yeah, I don't agree with what you said there, Mass. But
no, I mean, I know that debt should not be placed on us. But technically, the government says that debt is ours. So,
Yeah, it doesn't matter what they say. I mean, I'm not here paying off, but we do pay taxes. We're not here paying off the national debt. The government does, but the government pays that off. Yeah. The government pays it off in taxes. But the national debt has been balanced before in the past. I mean, it's been balanced and it goes out of balance. It gets balanced. So I mean, all that slave stuff. So I respectfully disagree with you. But
listen to this
though. Listen, Mass. I want to.
This will blow your mind.
All right. Listen. Okay. This is your last one. All right.
From George Washington to Bill Clinton, our national debt was $7 trillion, and then after Bill Clinton, Bush's son, he put on 7 trillion himself, and then Obama put on 7 trillion himself. So out of those two presidencies, they put 14 trillion on themselves, and from George Washington to Bill Clinton, they did 7 trillion in all of them years. That's all I have to say. I'm going to let you guys.
All right, Mass. Thanks for the call in, man. All right, brother.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I appreciate his call in. Mass has been with me for a long time. I don't agree with what he had to say about the national debt and the laws that were passed post slavery. But there is a national debt, and I would say, credit cards cause a lot of people to get into some serious. The credit card companies don't do anybody favors. I definitely agree with that. So. A little liberal on the libations. I don't know. I don't think Mass one. Were you drink? Have you been drinking? I don't know. You, Kevin. I don't think so. A question about the death tax. Go ahead, Steve. What's your question? I know a little bit about it, but not that much. Everyone knows MasterCard is run by the Moors. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Listen, everyone, please let's refrain from name calling. Everybody in here, I understand. Certain people. Look, I am here to basically point out a lot of the sovereign citizen nonsense. But I don't mind people calling in that have different opinions and points of views. So let's try to, let's just try to hold back on any of the name calling. That's all. Death tax is 10% in New York. If Bernie Sanders is elected, it's 80% for. Is there any way out of this? Well, Steve, if the federal government passes a law, the answer is no. Unless there are loopholes within that particular law, which there often is in the tax code and the federal tax code. But I have no idea about this potential law. So I really don't know what to say about it. The funny thing about the argument against the state tax is pretty straightforward. It's that any of that money that was accumulated in an individual estate was already taxed when it was earned. You're welcome, Mass. Look, let's just keep this as civil as possible. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, any wealth or money that a person accumulates in their lifetime, they're paying taxes on it as they are accumulating it. And then the argument against the estate tax is then when they die, that money gets taxed again just because that person died. It's sort of like a big money grab for the government. That's why I'm generally like, I can understand maybe like a small estate tax, but I'm generally against any large estate taxes. Do you get to go to Britain without a Do I get to go to Britain without a passport? Being a member of the British Accredited Registry. Well, Taze, actually, this is how it works. I have here on my cell phone. I have the number saved for the British Registry, the British Prime Minister, and the Queen of England. Now, when I call the Queen, I don't get her, but I get her first assistant directly. And I just ask him for a private flight to London. And I drive up to the Pittsburgh airport, and they pick me up on the runway in a Lexus, and they drive me to a private plane, and they fly me off to London. That's how it works. Hi, Ilona. Thank you. Hi from the UK. Hi from Pittsburgh. I thought if I passed away, my unclaimed estate went straight to my straw man. Well, number one, I believe that estate taxes only apply to estates of a certain value. I have no idea what your estate is worth, Lou. I've dealt with estates. None of the ones I've dealt with have had estate tax issues. I believe that in most states and federally, they only apply to estates of certain values, $1 million, 500,000. I don't know what it is. If you die without a will, that's called intestate. It means you have died intestate, and your estate will be split up amongst your surviving heirs. I want to go to London. I do too, Southern Belle. I'd love to go to, I'd love to just do a whole trip of the UK. I'd love to go to London. I'd love to go to Wales, Scotland, Ireland, all over. I'm a big Roman Empire, like ancient Rome, history buff. I'd like to go to Bath, England, where they have actually a surviving bath from the Roman period. Looks really, really cool. Over under on 100 Astros getting hit this year. Over. I wonder here, my thing, Tom Castro, is with the Astros is, now that they're not cheating, how bad are they going to be? Like, how many wins did the cheating add? Because we're talking about teams that were winning like 100 games a year. Now that they can't cheat, what are they down to? 75? Are they a 500 team? Big Beatles fan, got to see Liverpool. That'd be cool. I want to be knighted by the Queen. Is that weird? No, that's freaking awesome. Cause you have to be a British. Ilona, need to go to York. Isn't it true, Ilona, to be knighted, you have to be British, right? You have to be a British citizen to actually get knighted. I know like Paul McCartney got knighted, and Patrick Stewart, I'm a big Star Trek fan, he got knighted. Just don't give your camera to the Roman centurion. Gary, you're right, brother. You're right, man. See, I got a fill of my Roman crap, and I got a lot of it in Rome. I toured the Forum. I did a lot of that. Sorry to say that, but all the government always finds a way to have their hands on our money, whatever the source. That's for damn sure, Rajan. That's for damn sure. I want to be a knight. Me too. Hell yeah, Trekkers. I love Star Trek. Me being a lifelong Dodger fan, I hope 2 or 3 Astros get hit every game. Yeah, I do too, Tom. Just, I'm not a Dodger fan, but they're really jagoffs. If you have a CCW permit and your final destination is a reciprocity state, but have to pass through a non-reciprocity. Okay, hold on. CCW permit. Do you have to stop and lock your weapon in your trunk? Melissa, that's a good question. I should look that up. CCW permit. CCW permit. Final destination is reciprocity state. Final dest res state. Okay. I'm going to look that up for you, Melissa. Notable non-Brits are only eligible for honorary knighthood, meaning they aren't allowed to add sir or dame to their names. Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Over under 100 batters intentionally thrown up by the Pirates. Chris Archer running from Puig is still my favorite highlight of the year. You know, the funny thing was after that Puig brawl, the guys on on Pittsburgh radio were talking about him coming to the Pirates. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm thinking of banning you. Go Giants. Notable, I hate baseball, so boring. I like NFL and NHL. I like NFL, NHL, and MLB. Not really into the NBA. But you know, I like my sports because those are the Pittsburgh teams. See what I'm saying? Black and gold, everybody. Taze, you mean the midgets? I'm thinking banning Go Giants. I think so. And wasn't Jimmy Seville a sir? I don't know. It would be cool to be a knight though. You can also like go back and like, I want to create like a coat of arms for my family. Like you can do that. But like a lot of people, so I'm Italian, like people go back to Italy and create a coat of arms, given, you know, their name and their region. I think that's kind of neat. Your heart is in the right place, but please learn about how sorry, the caller I seem to have offended with name calling your heart, but please learn about how diseases are spread. Is it me or new laws geared to allow the rape of children and forcing them to go through? I don't know, man. I don't know. Geared to allow I don't imagine that any laws allow the rape of children. Forcing them to go through pregnancy or face jail, I can't answer on that. I just don't know. It would not be cool to be Jimmy Sirloin. I can't tell from the surname, but my mom's side is all Marcosi and Andretti. So who Italy? Those are both Italian names for sure. Pittsburgh had an ABA team back in the day. Connie Hawkins was the star. Aging myself. Yeah, I knew they had an ABA team. And I get into college basketball, March Madness. You know, Pitt was good about 10 years ago. There were a couple of seasons where Pitt basketball was really good. We had some stars. It was a lot of fun to watch. I'm a Pitt alum. But the last few years, they've just been so bad. It's been hard for me to stomach. And I still watch March Madness, though. I like the game of college basketball better than the NBA too. You know, more shooting, less star centric. Even though I think the NBA game may have gotten a little bit better in recent years, still, it's just I don't have like a team to root for, and that makes me lose a little bit of interest in the sport. Do you think cops are being trained on sovereign citizens now? I know they are definitely for a fact. And I don't know if every department is, but almost every department likely is. Hi, Joe. Greetings from Tech. Can you explain the Corpus Delicti argument sovereign citizens claim? Yeah, you know, I actually I had looked that up before. Let's see here. Corpus Delicti. I think I know. I know a little bit about it, but let me see exactly what they mean by it when they make the claim. Okay, these two. Okay, Corpus Delicti. I'll tell you what I know about Corpus Delicti. Corpus Delicti in regular law, not sovereign citizen fantasy world, means the body of the crime. So in some states, like take for instance like drug possession. Okay. Bill can't just go into court and say, Tim was dealing drugs. He had 5 ounces of cocaine. Okay. That's not enough to convict Tim in a court. Okay. They need a body of the crime. So the police or law enforcement need to get a hold of the actual drugs. Okay. They need more than just somebody saying that something happened. Okay. And that is more or less the thrust of the Corpus Delicti rule. The concrete evidence of a crime, such as a corpse. So that lets you know, going back into Latin, so we're talking English common law hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they needed an actual body, right? That's like they say with homicide, for example, you can't have a homicide without the body. Well, yeah, you can't prove the person's dead unless you have the person's dead body. So that's true. Somebody can't just come in and say Bill killed Dawn, okay, if you don't know that Dawn's actually dead. So you need a body of a crime. All right. Let's see here. Let's look on Wikipedia, Corpus Delicti, a term from Western jurisprudence referring to a principle that a crime must be proved to have occurred before a person can be convicted of committing that crime. For example, a person cannot be tried for larceny unless it can be proven that property has been stolen. Likewise, in order for a person to be tried for arson, it must be proven that a criminal act resulted in the burning of the property. In the American legal system, concept has outgrown in several principles. Many jurisdictions hold as a legal rule that a defendant's out-of-court confession alone is insufficient to prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. A corollary is that an accused cannot be solely convicted upon the testimony of an accomplice, right? They need some other evidence, okay, to add that up. Now, what the sovereign citizens argue is they think, and this goes to another argument where they say no injured party. They think a crime can only be proven if you have an injured human being. Okay. So for example, drug possession. A lot of people say drug possession is a victimless crime, right? The person who had drugs on them, okay, they didn't actually hurt or kill or damage anybody or take any money from somebody or property. So other people were not deprived of property. They were not dealt physical harm. They were not deprived of liberty, okay? That is what is called a victimless crime. The sovereign citizens argue that victimless crimes are not actually crimes. They argue that those laws are not actually valid laws. Okay, I'm here to tell you that is wrong. That is false. Okay, the government, the way it's set up in our country and every country in the world, is that a local government, at least well, there's obviously federal criminal laws, but there are state criminal codes, okay, and they have wide jurisdiction. They have basically anything that is not restricted by the Constitution, they can regulate. And if you live or are physically present within their jurisdiction, you are going to be held to those laws. Okay. So that's what they say when they have plenary. It's called plenary jurisdiction. Most of your courts are going to have plenary jurisdiction, which is generally absolute. So the sovereigns come in when they're accused of a crime like possession of a drug, like driving without a license, like a traffic violation, and they say, oh, there's no corpus delicti. There's no. What they mean is there's no body. Okay, there's no body of the crime. Okay. The corpus delicti rule, well, but what they're saying on top of that is without an injured party, there is no crime. This is factually and legally incorrect. So when you see them talk about corpus delicti, they're basically trying to say that nobody was injured in what happened. Therefore, you shouldn't be holding me responsible. There shouldn't be any crime. But as long as the statutes regulate that activity, it's going to be a crime. I saw a clip today, Sobs said, who's under the impression that you can pay money in order to dismiss criminal charges, including murder. Well, Gary, let me tell you about that. It is widely known, more or less, in certain jurisdictions that you cannot generally pay money to get out. Well, let's back this up. This is a good question. Number one, a delicious corpse. That's what it. Taze, I like that, brother. I like that. Number one, what was I talking about? Money. So if you've committed some sort of financial crime, such as stealing from another person, sometimes law enforcement officers, the district attorney, the prosecutor, the judge, the defense attorney will all get together and they can say, look, if you make the injured party whole, we will drop the charges. Okay. That's a common way to resolve criminal charges. And it's actually written into the PA statutes. There's a rule. I can't remember it off the top of my head for now. You're welcome, Karen. Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it and being a fan. So, like, for example, retail thefts with like Walmart, Walmart will come in and they'll say, have them do a retail theft class and pay for the merchandise and we'll drop the case. And boom, that happens. And the judge is on board with it. Everybody's on board with it. It happens all the time. You steal $100 off your grandmother. Grandmother comes in and says, I just want my money back. Okay, the judge says, give her the money back. You give the money back, boom, they'll drop the case. That happens all the time. What doesn't have generally, okay, things like assault, murder, kidnapping, there's no resolution there that involves the payment of money. I've never seen that. I don't know what goes on, everywhere in the country, but I've never seen that. Now, sometimes what prosecutors will do is they will lower the seriousness of charges. Now, let's say we're talking about like a large amount of money, like $50,000 stolen. They might not let that person off completely, but they might lower it from a felony to a misdemeanor if they can make the injured party whole and or pay fines. Now, one thing that does happen is some defendants can be given lighter sentences if they're able to pay their fines and fees up front. So you will, now this is before the person puts in a guilty plea or is convicted of a crime. They will plead to a certain crime, and then when the judge is doing sentencing, when the judge is deciding your sentence, the judge can take into account whether or not you have paid off your fines and fees in whole or in part. The judge can take that into account. That's legal and that is done. And the reason I'm saying this is I've seen people who, because they had money and were able to put money down before their sentencing, okay, they received a more lenient sentence than they normally would have. That's happened, and that's legal. Now, if that was known to the general public, would the general public be happy about it? I don't know. Okay, everybody, and let's do the same time here. Sip here in a second. First of all, yeah, let's have a nice chat here. I don't want one person dominating it either, Mass, Taze. So, let everybody jump in. Let's be civil. I've never had a chat go off the rails before. So give everybody some oxygen and a chance to talk. On the conceal and carry, my concern would be the very strict states such as New Jersey. Their own people can hardly transport a gun. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, those are interesting questions. Those are all interesting questions. I need to learn more. I get a lot of firearm questions, especially in both my YouTube channels, so I need to jump in sometime. Wasn't Steve French the name of Mountain Lion? Okay, a Sobs sit that goes by Archangel for Truth believes the 9th Amendment and inalienable rights gives a right to drive. listen, you know, things can be done with language. You could take every amendment in the Constitution, in every section of the Constitution, and spin it whatever the hell way you want. Okay. You know, but that doesn't make it right. Read the case law that goes along with the specific text of the Constitution. Okay. Before we do the same time sip, everybody give me a like. Drop me a like, please, on my video. If you haven't dropped a like in yet, I'm at 21. I got 37 people in the chat, but only 21 likes. What's going on here? What's going on here? Drop me some likes, people. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want to see the clip I'm talking about, being a sovereign, the law, and living in peace. Okay, everybody. Got my 9/11 memorial glass. Thank you. I'm up to 30. Thank you very much, everybody, for all the likes. Got my 9/11 memorial glass. I'm drinking some coffee today. I'm experimenting with different coffees. I'm drinking some Black Rifle coffee. If anybody watches the Mike the Cop, Mike the Cop he sold Black Rifle Coffee Company. So you count 34. It only says 33 for me. What's up with YouTube? It's actually pretty good coffee. I can drink it black. Some coffee I put cream in. Some I just drink black. It's 9 o'clock at night. I shouldn't be drinking coffee. I got court at 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, so I'll probably get about 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Thank you, everybody, for coming in and joining my chat today. I truly appreciate everybody's support and coming onto the show, dropping me likes. I hope that you enjoy everything that I talk about here. Thank you very much. But let's do a same time sip. It's going to be dedicated to friendliness, civil chats in the chat box, and you know, a little bit of a restraint on name calling. Look, I like to call people names, and I do that in my videos to one degree or another. But you know, I'm commenting on the news, etc., etc. Let's try to keep it a little more sane in the chats. Okay, raise your cup in the air, glass, wine glass, beer if you're mass one, sweet tea. Gary likes Yoo-hoo. Everybody's got a different beverage. It tastes better when we sip together. This is my last sip of coffee here. Cheers. Thank you. I try to be entertaining and we learn a little bit at the same time. That's the goal of my show. Another question, is there any merit to Sobs claiming duress? Like, I'll sign under duress or I'll show you my license under duress. I can talk about duress because it's a common principle in the law. Again, what sovereign citizens do is they take these common principles in the law and then they stretch their meanings outside of what their regular law is. Okay, so duress, another word for it could be coercion. So if somebody wants you to sign I would differ who they are, has a right to good and competent jurisdiction, jurisdiction, representation, even a sovereign citizen. Here's the thing though, the sovereign, I would represent it. I don't care. Listen, I have people who have done terrible and crazy things, and I have people who believe in terrible and crazy things, even as crazy as sovereign citizens. Okay, seriously. All right. So given that, the person, I will represent anybody as long as they allow me to be their lawyer and allow me to be their lawyer in the way that I need to do my job. If they interfere with me doing my job, they're gone. And that's a problem with sovereign citizens, is they're always going to interfere. Now, but if they came to me and said, Joe, do your thing, blah, 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 that's fine. I would speak for them then, you know, and they would have to take my advice, etc. So under those conditions, yes. The only people I really wouldn't represent is anyone who's killed a law enforcement officer, mass shooters, and certain crimes to children are outside of my scope. I have represented people with crimes to juveniles, nothing too crazy. Again, it's on a case-by-case basis. But, you know, one of the things nowadays is a lot of, like, you know, spanking kids or like hitting kids basically in any way whatsoever is going to get you, you're going to end up in jail nowadays. I'm sure a lot of people here, this and that, you know, we grew up in different times. I'm not even that old. I'm 37. And so, you know, I've represented parents who have hit their kids and have left some marks and stuff like that. And mostly what we do is we work to get them, they take classes, they get treatment, they get probationary periods. Really, the goal of the court system is to rehabilitate them, to get them to be good parents. But back to the duress. Sorry, the video is jammed. Back to the duress. All married men understand duress. So let's say you're doing a real estate deal. Let's say you're going to sign a real estate contract with Don Corleone, okay? And you walk into Don Corleone's office and you sit down with him and it's just you and him. And you've heard that he's a fair man and that he's going to make you a fair offer. And you sit down and he slides a real estate contract across from you, and you believe that you were selling your property for $200,000, and then you look at the contract and it says $100,000. And you say to Don Corleone, you said, I thought this was going to be for 200. Why does it say 100? And he says, well, I'll tell you why it says 100. And then he snaps his fingers, and Luca Brazzi, his enforcer, comes out and puts a gun to your head and says, sign either your signature or your brains are going to be on that paper. Okay. That is the principle of duress, right? You signed that contract under threat. Therefore, at a later time, let's say you sign the contract and then you go and you run and you get your lawyer and you hire a couple bodyguards too, because now the Don's after you. All right, you go and you get your lawyer, and your lawyer goes into court and says, Judge, this contract needs to be nullified because I was under duress whenever I signed this contract. And if the duress was real, the court can nullify the contract. So the same is true of, let's say, a defendant in a criminal case is being interrogated and the interrogation gets out of hand, okay, and, you know, he gets severely beat up or injured or tortured, okay, and he writes a statement confessing to the crime and signs the crime. Well, later on, when he's feeling better and he's away from the police, he says, that I don't want that to be admitted into court because I only signed it because I was getting the crap beat out of me. He signed it under duress. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the sovereigns mean with duress. I think what they're trying to say, I would imagine they're trying to nullify signatures or other legally binding contracts by claiming duress. But I haven't seen that enough, Karen, that's one that I'll have to look up. Okay, Corpus Delicti and duress for sovereigns. Again, it's a standard legal principle that the sovereign citizens then twist basically to their own desires. Okay, that's what they're doing. Hey, Megan, I don't know why you always catch them at the end. I start at 8. I always start at 8. Come on at 8. I'm going to try to come on again tomorrow. I was supposed to do some weekend shows last week. I didn't. Life is just crazy. And my law practice is just, it's all consuming. But I love doing these videos and these live streams, so I make time for it. Yes, if you saw Better Call Saul last week, would you get into cartel? Blimey Maynard. Okay. I'm watching Better Call Saul. I haven't seen the newest episodes. I've only seen the newest seasons on Netflix. So please don't give me any spoilers. I love Better Call Saul, though. Love it. If you had a Sobs as a client and they start spotting in court, can you ask the judge to release you? Yes, I can. Yeah, attorneys can withdraw from clients pretty much as long as they can articulate some sort of good reason. Now, some judges might want to keep you on a case for one reason or another, but most sovereign citizens, if they're serious about being sovereign citizens, they're going to deny counsel. And what judges will do that really want to protect the integrity of the record is they will assign standby counsel. And that would be an attorney who would be assigned to the sovereign citizen, but wouldn't actually be representing him. But the sovereign citizen can ask him questions. It makes things go smoother. One soft SIP belief is that since you would be punished for driving without a license, you were under duress to get a driver's license. Yeah, you know, Juan Galt, that's interesting. And yeah, I mean, the thing is they're just stretching the logical connection there beyond, you know, one interesting area of law is the implied consent statutes, which basically say if you get a driver's license and you're driving on the road, you've already consented to give a blood or a breath search, mostly breath at this point, but to give a breathalyzer test if you have been suspected of driving under the influence and there's probable cause to support the asking of the breath test. So what the law says is that you've already given consent. And many attorneys have attacked the implied consent laws constitutionally. They've all failed. But recent Supreme Court decisions has shown that you can't be punished under the implied consent laws for refusing a blood draw, but you can be punished under implied consent for refusing a breath test, because a breath test is not seen to be as invasive to your right to privacy. Yeah, most states say that, most states say being on the road is implied consent. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining me. I know, you know, I need to start doing some longer shows. I know that. I need to do those on the weekends because I'm so crunched on the weekdays. So I only go for about an hour, 20 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. We had a good same time sip. I enjoyed the conversation tonight. We had a call in. Thank you for joining me. Go Penguins, go Steelers, F the Astros, and thank you for the likes. Thank you very much. Good night.